We are thrilled to introduce you all to Karleen Savage today. Karleen is a TEDx speaker. She's certified in hostage and crisis negotiation, and she is a seasoned parent who stands at the forefront of empowering parents to instill confidence in their teens. With more than 4 decades of hands-on experience parenting 7 unique children, ranging from ages 28 to 41. That might have changed by now, but we'll have her share that with us in a minute. Karleen has honed her skills in navigating the complexities of raising confident and resilient individuals and has documented her approach in her new book, The Confident Teen Blueprint, a parent's 30-day challenge to empower your teen. As the creator of the Savage Theory of Resolution, a 5-skill model that can be used to resolve any conflict, Karleen knows that peaceful and amicable resolution is possible. Karleen has been featured on MSNBC for her knowledge in hostage negotiation. She holds a master's in conflict resolution and negotiations and is a certified hostage and crisis negotiator. She has been married for more than 30 years and lives in Utah with her family. We're so excited to have you here. You have such a unique background. That is amazing. How are you, Karleen?
That was such a long-winded bio. I am good. I am good. We could condense that, but just knowing 4 decades, yes, I'm happy to be here with both of you.
I am very excited to dive into a fun question with you, Karleen. So I want you to pick a number between 1 and 10.
Oh my gosh. Okay. 8.
Ooh, good one. Okay, this is actually a really good question for you.
Okay.
I'm interested to see what you have to say. Do you trust people that don't look you in the eye?
Okay, just one quick thought is who has the time to worry about that? Just because with 7 kids running around, it was like I wasn't looking people in the eye. So I think in a direct way, not necessarily. I probably, and I have it more happen with males with me than with females. And when they can't look me in the eye, it's like I'm dodging everywhere for them. It's like, where'd you go? So I think I'm apprehensive.
When someone can't look you in the eye?
Yeah.
Like I know that I've read, like if you're looking up and off in a certain direction, it means they're lying or things like that. But I will say as a person with anxiety, I try very hard to look in the eye, but when I like start to feel prickles of anxiety, I do tend to like look down or off to the side a little bit. So
I think that's such
I'm
a
not
fair,
being shady. I just feel anxious.
I think that's fair. Yeah. And you have to kind of feel that. So that's why apprehensive, but not necessarily have a problem with it.
Or if you're trying to stare at something that's not their eyes, like their nose, they're probably like, do I have a booger? Do I have something in my teeth? What's happening?
My
Why are they
husband
staring?
is always at my lips. He's always staring at my lips.
That's a
And
good
it's like,
sign.
yeah, and I don't know what it is, but I keep telling him my eyes are up here.
Yeah, at least it's not
Because,
lower, right?
but I like your lips. They look good.
That's so romantic. Oh, I love it. When I was reading through your background, there's so much that stands out to me. One of which is that you are certified as a hostage and crisis negotiator and that you help parents with instilling confidence in their teens. I have a tween and a teen right now, so I'm with you there. If I was a mom to young kids and I heard that combination, I'd say, what does hostage negotiation have to do with parenting a teen? But now that I have a teen and a tween, I can definitely see the benefit of having those skills.
Yes, you can.
I could have put them to use a couple nights ago, but maybe you'll teach us a little something tonight or today. There are varying degrees of conflicts and age-related crises, which require the ability as a parent to listen. Was there a moment when you realized that your professional training could be entwined with your parenting and ultimately benefit you as a parent? Actually, did you have the certification when the kids were young?
No,
Okay.
but what I did find out in doing my training, because I didn't finish, I got my degree, my master's degree in conflict and negotiations in 2015. So
Gotcha.
it was later. So no, but what I did find out is I aligned with a lot of that stuff. So it felt like I was made for it. And I look at conflict very differently. Like it's a powerful, incredible gift to work in conflict. I love it. And when I say that, people think that, they stereotypically might think, oh, she likes to fight. No, I like truth. I like authenticity. I like moving all the barriers to the side so we can know each other. That's what resolution does.
I can definitely see how it would be a very, very interesting and rewarding field. And also how you have to really nurture your listening skills, which you must have had the natural ability to listen if you were able to just adapt so well and that this fits so well with you. And it was after you had your kids, because I'm hoping that you have found some activities or ways that you can help teach us how to improve our listening skills in order to be better parents.
Sure, sure. And I also will add, I had a natural ability to be angry, meaning, when my kids would step out of line, I was very quick to get there and hold accountability. And I mean, I was made for this, but people will think that when you look at somebody that's really good at conflict resolution, they're mild mannered, they're soft spoken. This is not me. Okay. I'm Hawaiian and I'm every bit of it. And so, no, it's not that. It's the skills, and it's the skills you have and every listener has. And it's just a matter of remembering and applying those skills, refining them.
Okay. So when I think about a hostage negotiator, I immediately go to those crime dramas that are on TV where they have them in the room and they slam their hands on the table and they're like, tell me the truth. Can you correct that vision? And I can see how it's really distorted because you have to go in without making them feel defensive. But like we have to do with our kids, we have to go in approaching them with curiosity so that they don't get defensive.
Yeah, and you have to remember, made for TV is all about drama. I have a very, very good friend who was an editor of one of the large newspaper chains, and she said, it's all about death and destruction, Karleen. She goes, if the audience wanted good news, we would give them good news. But we can't get the readership, the ratings, the viewers. We can't get it without death and destruction. People will tune in. That's one. So when you're looking at hostage negotiations, although I do love the shows because watching how they meander through and navigate through that intensity is really cool. But keep in mind, it can be that way on the backside. Like you can have people on the team. Remember, in a hostage situation, you have a team of people. It's not a one-to-one. And that's the difference. That's number one. And number two, hostage negotiators, crisis negotiators, mediators, they don't veer away from truth. So they may, in a movie, slam their hands down and say, tell me, whereas in a true hostage negotiation, you may say, hey, Chrissy, it doesn't work like that. And you would still have to tell them the truth. You're not slamming your fist on the table. That's for TV. But you are saying, hey, you're not going to be okay. It's not going to be okay if you try and do this. And so that's why move it into parenting. You have to be able to be that parent that says, you're not going to be able to get away with that. We're going to have some accountability on this. And so it all ebbs and flows beautifully. And that's why I love the work.
So interesting to hear all of that background of what happens behind the scenes. Yeah. In the beginning, you had said that it was an evolution. It was an evolution to get to the part where you could bring in your anger when your kids did something inappropriate or wrong. Can you tell us what you might have done, what activities you did to help you?
I'm so excited.
Bring that piece to yourself.
Okay, this was before, and this is why I say it aligns for me, because when I was rearing 7 kids, number 2, I have a husband with a brain injury. So I was flying solo for 30 years and dealing with a husband with a brain injury and 7 kids and people that would come and live with us and all the things that go with that. So I had to constantly reinvent, iterate on all the things that I was trying to do, because in my book, I talk about the overarching philosophies. And one of my overarching philosophies is these are the most important people to me on the planet. And it's my responsibility to give them all I can so that they can function on their own, autonomous, with resilience, endurance, all the things that they need to be, successful in what they think they need to be successful in. And so as I was doing that, when they're little, we're talking tweens, teens, preteen, that experience that you have where you go, no, Mom, Johnny did this. And Johnny says, no, Mom, he did this. Sam did this.
Oh, yes.
Right? No,
Yes.
he did it first. No, you run into that all the time. And I remember sitting there going, what do I do? I mean, somebody's got to be held accountable, right? Something has to happen. And I didn't want to be that parent who just shot at, the easy target or shot at the difficult child or made those kind of judgment calls. I didn't want to be that person. So I remember I started this thing called Take It to the Judge. And so I told my kids, fine, I don't know the truth here. So you're going to tell me the truth and you're going to do it in front of each other. It's such an epic truth telling serum is if you put both of your kids in a room that are arguing and you say, tell me the story, the other one will correct very quickly what the first one is saying if they're off the mark. And so I said, take it to the judge. And what you have to do is you have to present what happened. You get the whole floor to yourself. You get to tell me everything. You tell me how it happened for you. And then afterwards, the other person gets to talk about it and how it happened for them. And you have to convince me that it wasn't you. And you're going to do that by telling me how things happen. And then I'll ask, and then the judge will decide and the consequences will fall. Are you okay with that? That's another negotiation that you do with your family. Are you okay with that? Are you ready to handle that? Now, on a side note, it does a tremendous amount of skill development for them, of personal development for them, right? So we'd go through the story. They would present their case, and I'd ask them questions. Well, when did this happen? When did this happen? And who did that first? Did he say it, or did you say something first? We'd go through this whole thing. When somebody was off the truth, the other person would correct them when they had the opportunity. It was amazing. I could sit back and just let the truth be told. And then they would both look at each other like, and then I'd say, okay, so really, you wouldn't have done anything had you, pointed to the other, had you not poked him or said something to poke him. Yeah, I guess so, and then we could talk about resolution. So what do you want to do about it? Which is another skill in the hostage crisis and mediation. So what do you want to do about it? And then they would resolve it on their own. It was beautiful. And so we used that several times. And then finally they'd go, we'll just figure it out on our own. Which in a parent's world, you want that skill set for your kids.
I love it. There's so much in there that is a beautiful skill building for the kids. My initial question was, a lot of times when this happens and the kids are arguing like that, it's very heated. When you take on this role of take it to the judge, do you separate them? Do you let them calm down first? What did you normally do?
Sure. So anytime that it's very heated, what do we do as parents? You step in the middle generally, right? So you step in the middle and say, hold it, or stop, or something. You're calling a halt to the situation, and that's sufficient. But parents need that moment too. So you catch the breath. And so you step in the middle of it and you're going to go enough. And then you hold, which is a negotiation tactic. You hold space, hold it for good, hold it for bad, you hold space. And then you say, okay, what happened? And then they'll start shooting like bullets, shooting all their points, right? So they just keep shooting at you. And that's when the parent is going, crud, what do I do? And that's where I jumped in and went, okay, get a brain, Karleen, get a cell in your head and figure this out. Because as I said, I didn't want to be the parent that just said, okay, I know this child usually is the one instigating the problem, so I'm going to zap them. And then have them grow up thinking there's no justice, there's no voice. If you do it wrong once, you do it wrong all the time. I didn't want that for my kids. I wanted them to grow up having a resilient confidence that could withstand whatever they were going to face in their life.
I love that. As you were talking, Karleen, I found myself wondering specifically when you were doing your grad work, you said you got your master's in conflict resolution, right? I envision that as a very male dominated field, but I also can see that women would be very good at it. And I was just wondering, it just was a flitting thought through my head. I was wondering if there was like a even divide between men and women, or
That's a really interesting question. I'm trying to think. Our cohort was only like 15 people. So
okay.
I know that space. And I think there's strengths and weaknesses to both. I mean, we were taught mostly by men. But what's interesting is that when I've certified in hostage and I go, it's dominated by men. Okay.
Mhm.
So it's dominated by men, but here's the interesting thing. So as I sit in the room, the instructor, and I've certified with him 4 times, so 8 years. And what he has said when I'm sitting in the room is, and it was so powerful as we were doing our simulation negotiations, and it gets real for these people because it does seem like a hostage situation because we're divided and all this other stuff that happens. But he made the comment, and this was to SWAT and FBI when we were sitting around on these teams. He said, "You better listen to her." And it was very powerful for me in that moment because I went, "Oh, shoot, I've got something to lend." So with all this power, I do think as we move through the world, there is a very powerful place for all players. And we lend a very powerful force to it. But I am also a believer that every good and powerful thing that we have has an adverse reaction to it as well. So, for example, I can be very power hungry, or I can be manipulative because I know how to negotiate. Or you could go up against a hard bargainer in negotiations who doesn't care about the win or the loss of us. That one side only cares about the win. Those kinds of things, there is an adverse. However, if you find the channel for that adverse effect, and I could be talking gibberish for you guys right now, I don't know. But for example, in law, attorneys are win-lose, right?
Mhm.
That is an adverse effect if you take that win-lose philosophy into your home or into your personal relationship. Do you see? However, their ability to advocate for their client is power. So that's what I mean. We all have a role and it's powerful, but it has an adverse effect if not placed in the right place.
Absolutely. We have to be mindful of the power that we possess.
Correct.
And what it's used for. Absolutely. Conflict is an inevitable part of life, unfortunately, fortunately, maybe. Whether with children, partners, friends, colleagues, the list is endless who we can have conflict with. And it can really rock your world when you become embroiled in an argument or a disagreement with someone, especially a loved one. It feels important to touch on your trademarked Savage theory of resolution. It's a 5-skill model that can be used to resolve any conflict. Can you walk us through this model?
Sure. What if we could show you how you have power if you look at the conflict? And I don't mean be run over by the train. I mean, if you look at the conflict, that is the Savage theory of resolution. It shows you how to look at the conflict. It's not avoidance. It's simply saying, you know how we talked about the movie that you saw with the hostage negotiators and slamming? What if you did that in the situation? What if I could show you how to do that in the situation? And now it's something that you're viewing. And then you can navigate through the view versus feeling like you are the beaten up player in the picture. That is the Savage theory of resolution. It's the 5 skills. And the first skill is curiosity. But as I shared in my TED Talk, it's not curiosity of any kind, because you can have curiosity that I want to be a VP in a corporation. That kind of curiosity checks, who are the players, who are the people I have to, know, and what kinds of things do I have to do in order to get near them and understand them. That's curiosity to climb the corporate ladder, right? The curiosity for conflict is being an exceptional learner. Are you willing to look at the movie of your life, the situation, the hostility, and go, what's happening? Have you ever thought of saying, hey, what's happening? How did we get here? How did you and I get at odds? That's a curiosity for learning. not a curiosity for assumptions and predictions and finger pointing, blaming. That's not that kind of curiosity. It's a curiosity of what happened? Did I do something? Did I say something that made you do that? And if it doesn't match, then, well, it doesn't match. Why? So people that avoid conflict won't even ask that. And it's because the pain, you have to look at your deepest fears. Your deepest fears are, I could lose this, lose whatever I'm looking at, lose, I'm fearful of losing the moment. But you know what? Even in the terrible moments that you react terribly, you can recover those. If you go back and go, shoot, I didn't handle that well. What can I do to make this right? How can I fix this? What do you need? Those are curiosities to learn. So communicating is not just being a good listener. It's an exceptional learner. Hostage crisis and mediators are exceptional learners. Think of a hostage situation. We're getting on there and we're going, hey, what happened? Tell us about the people that are in there. How many people you got? Is everybody okay? Do you need any assistance? How can we help? What happened that caused you to trigger this? Where did it come from? Who caused that? Those are all just learning. I'm just learning, taking in data. That's curiosity. That's the most important piece if you do nothing else. If you do nothing else of the Savage Theory of Resolution, do that. The second one is attitude, and it's just simply being willing to stand there and be the listener. The third one is master listening. It's filling in the gaps of the person's story. When we talk in bullet points. Think about our kids. They go, he did this, he did that, he did, but they don't tell you everything. And so master listening is filling in the gaps in between those bullet points. The fourth is connection. It's building that connection by saying certain phrases like, it sounds like you're kept up at night, with these troubling thoughts when it's painful. But it's not manipulation, because if you learned in the curiosity, then your comment in the connection is correct. And then you reframe. And you say to reframe in the conflict is to ask another question, taking all this information into account. So I've master listened, I've connected, I've learned about things, I've been willing to hear the news. So then the reframing is, so given all that, ultimately, given all that, what would you like to do? How would you like to proceed? What do you think I should do to make this better? And then you hold space and you wait for them to go. And a lot of times what you'll hear in that, if you walk through all of this, if you do this Savage Theory of Resolution, what generally happens at the end is they go, I don't know. And it's because nobody has ever allowed that much truth in an argument. So they don't know. And so when you go there, it's like, well, okay, well, if you don't know, then I don't know how to fix it. Then I don't know why we're mad at each other. And I don't know why this is happening then. So we've got to know how it's going to work to make you feel better or make me feel better or make this situation better. You have to come to a resolution, but we don't ever get there because we assume we've got all the answers and we judge them correctly instead of allowing them the moment to go, what's it going to take? And in that moment, you find this truth where it's generally, I don't know, or I don't want to talk about it. If you give them that, then how can we have an argument if you don't even know what's going to make you good?
I imagine that in that reframe phase where you've made your connection, you've done all your listening, you've shown that you're open and you're reframing and you're offering them this opportunity to share their position. You also need to be prepared in a personal situation. This is not like in a hostage negotiation or something like that, but you need to be prepared to hear the ways that you are at fault and what the other person is blaming you for.
I would insert, you need to be prepared to learn their view of you. Doesn't mean it's accurate. I mean, let's just take I'm going to say a buzzword, in-laws. Doesn't mean it's accurate. They're just two stories. So are you prepared to learn their view of you? And if you get to learn their view, then you know what? You have a say. You have an ability to explain. If they say, you're just a selfish person, and you go, oh, that's my ability to learn what your view is of me, then I can come back and say, what did I do to show selfishness in this? I don't understand. Tell me. And then they're going to give you the bullet list, right? Again, you're learning their view, all the things that offended them of you. And that gives you opportunity to go, oh my gosh. So imagine being able to say, oh my gosh, that's not at all what I meant. Holy cow. I am so sorry. I thought, wow, can I tell you what I thought at that moment? That is that is so truthful, so authentic.
Yeah, it's so powerful.
Yeah, it's not about, I'm going to hear how who I am from you. They're not the expert on you. You are. And so you get to learn their view, and wow, what power, because now you have this whole crystal ball to sit in front of you and go, ooh, that's not what I meant here. Oh, I kind of, you know what? You're right. Yeah, I'll take that one. I did change the plans on us.
Karleen, I am just sitting here wondering, are your children like master negotiators? Have they just learned so much from you?
It's really funny because they all have their people. And it's really funny because in the last probably 6 months, they've all come to me and said, this stuff is normal for us. We don't understand why other people are struggling with it. It's just normal because we can generally speak it up and own the truth. I have one daughter that she goes, yeah, I'm a little hot. I'm a little hot under the collar. I get a little bit I can spark pretty quickly. And so you'll go, you'll say to her, okay, you're a little heated right now. We're just going to walk away. And she'll start laughing and go, yeah, you're right. Okay, I get it. And then you can come back and go, okay, so what was that about? Well, I'm mad about this and I'm mad and so it's a beautiful thing, but they're very good. They're very good. But they have not recognized it because they said, we've lived with it so long, we don't even know that we're doing it. So, but they can walk into any situation and really handle it. And because of that, there is a cost that comes with that. And it instilled a confidence in them. And that's why if we are willing and if we are brave, and brave is something we do. If we do brave, we'll learn this. And if we do, our kids come out being able to handle their own squabbles, their own negotiations. They're able to navigate when somebody's unhappy with something and hear it and be okay. And that's a confidence you want for your kids. You want them to be able to go, oh, I did terrible on this paper, or, the teacher doesn't really like me. Okay, well, that's all right. She doesn't have to like me. I still need to get the work done.
Yeah. The thing that happens is, and you had mentioned this earlier, is when someone approaches with a conflict, it immediately triggers that fear that you might have inside of you. So, and you had mentioned loss, and that really resonated with me that, oh, if I have this conflict, then they might leave me. They might not be my friend anymore. And it's all about something else you said was assuming the best in that person, that they care about me. That's why they're coming to me.
The feelings are real, though. I think that the feelings are real and we can't sideline those. However, I will tell you one of my views is I'd rather lose my girlfriend, I'd rather lose my children, I'd rather lose my spouse in truth, knowing that we were truthful and real with each other, than in any level of lying and disingenuous behavior. I don't want to walk away from a relationship and go, I didn't say that part. I should have said that so that they knew. And, we've gone through spells where our kids have, flexed and said, what, I don't think you're right on this. And they've stopped talking to us for a period of time. And I've had to go, okay, but you know where I'm at. You know what this means. Now, going to the book, one of my overarching philosophy is I will be there every time, all the time. So whenever you want to show up again, I'm going to be right there with you. And so, you have to have some of those things going on in your overarching view of the world and of your relationships, the people you deal with.
Yeah, and as you're talking, it's all about what we know. We can't demonstrate what we don't know. So what I mean by this is, as parents, we only want to do what's best for our children, and we can only draw from the best of which we know. Most of our parenting skills have come from our experiences growing up. In order
Yes.
to shift unwanted generational patterns and behaviors, we need to rely on the most recent research and experts who are sharing updated parenting strategies, like you. Many of the experts we've interviewed have stated that kids need to have rules, they need to feel loved, listened to, and accepted, with an ultimate goal of elevating our children's self-confidence, which we've also discussed already in our conversation.
Yeah.
Will you please talk us through action-based rules and why they are especially effective with teens?
I think one of our biggest tug of wars when we start having teens, if I can tell, just my truth here, I think one of our biggest tug of wars is we're transitioning from child to young adult. And when we do that, they're going to flex. They don't know they hit the young adult stage. And if we don't recognize that teenhood is a young adult stage, it's pre-adult, then yeah, we'll get upset. We get our back up because, they want the cookie, whatever it is. They want the cookie. They want it now. And they're flexing, and they're using their own reasonings that you've taught them and that they've been exposed to with other people. So they're processing that stuff. So to be fair, having effective experiences with them means including them in a conversation. And what I mean by that is, one of the things I always did was the consequences were known before the hammer fell. Now, there was overarching consequences, overarching ways of living that we had, and they knew that from, 1 year old. But as they get to this pre-adult, now we have to help them navigate that same pattern and expectation. So you include them in the conversation by saying, okay, so here's the deal. You're going to the football game. Tell me when it's over, where the stereotype is your curfew is at 11 o'clock. You have to be home. Instead, wrap them into the conversation and say, okay, tell me what's going on. You're at the football game. What's the plan? What are you doing afterwards? You find out, and they'll say something like, well, we're going to go to the football game, because that's a typical teen. They don't give you any details. We're going to go to the football game. And so then you're going to go, okay, who are you going with? How long is the game? Where's it at? And, you get the details. Well, I don't know why you have to get all the details, Mom. What's the big deal? Well, A, I need to know where you're at in the middle of the night. And B, let's figure out when you're due home. What? There's no curfew? No, there is a curfew. It's called when you're done. And if you're up to no good, you're coming home. But if you still have plans, then we can talk about that. So when you're looking at it, having something that's more based in what works for pre-adult and parent means including them in that conversation, letting them help create the outcome. And then if it's unreasonable, or if there's things that the parents know they should be cautionary about, they can insert that. You can still say, yeah, I'm just not okay with you going out after the game, so I think I'm going to have you come home. It's been snowing or it's been raining, and I'm just not comfortable with it. Something in my gut's not making it feel right, so we're going to go do that. They can pitch a fit. They can have say whatever they want. But if you include them, they know the expectation. They're part of the plan, and they buy in. Think about it in companies. You try and get your customer to buy in, you include them, you ask them what they want, you ask them what they like, what color do you like, what features do you like? I'm going to give you those. If I deliver on those, then you're going to want that, right? So same thing with your teens. Get them to participate in the situation. It could be a 3-minute conversation, and it could be a 2-hour conversation, depending upon the severity of the issue. So it's having it relate. So funny, my husband and I, early on in our marriage, we had this conversation. I said, so what are you going to do if our kids ditch school? And he goes, ground them and take away their lunch money. And I started laughing. I said, what does that have to do with school?
Right.
I'm like,
Starve them.
not. I know. Take away their lunch money. Who's giving them lunch money? In my view, they have to earn it. So what's your view on that? And so we would go around and I'd say, no, the penalty, the consequences have to equal the offense. It doesn't make sense to give this overarching consequence or to do something when they're 14 that I did when they were 8. That's it. You're not going. You can't have it. Whatever it is, right? That's what we would have done when they were 8. We would have just said, nope, you're not going to go across the street by yourself. You're not going to do it. Now, when they're 14, you're going to say, okay, I'm still not comfortable with you going across the street, but what are you going to do? How are you going to get there? What's going to happen? When are you coming back? And then navigate that. I'm not comfortable with you staying over there. There's no parents over there. I'm not okay with that. So what else can we do? Do you want to do it here? Do you want to, can you go someplace else? Can you do it outside? There's all these suggestions that you can give, and that's in the reframing of the Savage theory of resolution. We went through the whole thing, and then I'm saying, okay, so what do you want to do?
I'm curious what you and your husband decided to do if they skipped school.
Well, so it's
it had to be relatable, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what would be relatable?
So here's the relatable for me. When they were little, we didn't have that issue. I knew it would be an issue when they were older, pre-adult, right? So the rule was you have to have good grades. You have to have been doing your best. So whatever that is, if your good grades are a C, I'm okay with that. If you will tell me it's your best, if I've seen the pattern, you have to have any homework done. And if you want to skip school, I'll make the call for you. But you have to take responsibility for your own stuff on that. So if you get yourself in truancy situations, you cannot do X, Y, Z. You can't get yourself in those situations. You have to have all your homework done. You have to be able to stand there and tell me that you've done everything that you need to do to be responsible, and then I'll call it in for you. And so my kids did take advantage of that quite a bit. But you know what? I was pretty confident in what they were doing. I didn't have to worry necessarily about certain friends or, are they going to get themselves in a pickle that they can't get out of? And it's not that we didn't have those situations. It's that we were able to have the conversation about the situation. And so before or after, either one. And that's the confidence you want to have in your family, that you can still do that. So that's what we did as far as ditching school. And my kids had to earn their own money. Sorry.
Why is that? Why are you sorry about that? I think
because a lot of people don't believe in it. And I am totally an advocate of, you got to earn your money. You got to earn your way. I can't teach you that somebody's just going to hand you money. And so like if they had their first jobs, their responsibilities were you have to pay your car insurance, if there was a car, and you had to buy all your own personal products. So I won't do it for you. And so that was the first job responsibilities. I mean, it's just little things like that I would do that had representation and they connected the pieces for them in their head. Yeah, I have a job. I have to pay something. Yep, you do.
Yeah. You had mentioned, not in this podcast, but I think it's in your book, where you say that there's unwanted baggage that comes from building a teen's self-confidence and resiliency. Can you explain this? What do you mean by that?
So in simple terms, what happens is we are a lion society, and we talk about women empowerment. We talk about lifting others. We talk about, we've got to, forge ahead and good for you. And it's only good for you if I agree with it, right? That is society. It's only truth if I agree with the truth. It's only, therein lies the problem. But if you raise a resilient, confident person, here's what happens. They become autonomous. They become independent. They don't rely on other people for their self-esteem, for their permission. They make their decisions, and come what may, they own their decisions. But the problem that comes in is other people get upset. They don't like somebody who doesn't need them. They don't like independence. My daughter dated. A lot of the guys she dated, they had a problem with her because She chose to date them. She didn't need to date them. That becomes a problem. My kids have been told, oh my gosh, you're model looking. You're so gorgeous, or you're so handsome. And they would say, I know. I didn't have anything to do with it. I know. It's my parents. And they would, I mean, my kids have actually had most reactions to something like that is, you should just say thank you. Why aren't you more grateful? And I remember one daughter said, why do I need your permission to say I know I'm beautiful? That doesn't make sense to me. These are the costs. My two sons, my one son was top 100 soccer players in the nation. And parents would get livid because they would come to us in the middle of soccer games and go, you should cheer for their mistakes. And we didn't cheer for mistakes. We just didn't say anything. So they would say, why aren't you cheering for mistakes? You're not supporting them. And I'd go, what? No, wait, this is their goal. This is their dream. They don't want me to cheer for a mistake. They want to be better players. And so what happened is that they became top 100. My other son won the national championship for soccer in his college as a freshman. But parents were bitter because it's like, we didn't parent like they did. We didn't say rah, rah to the mistakes. We held our tongue, and then we said, is that your best game? If that's your best game, we're all behind it. But if it's not, do better. And so, for example, when they learned soccer at 9 years old, you learn about the flopping that happens in soccer to try and get a foul call, right? I don't know if you guys know that, but they flop on the ground in the professionals to try and get the foul call. And I saw my son doing it because he was just mimicking what he had seen. And afterwards I said, if that's going to be your best game, you're not playing. That's all there is to that, because I believe you have more in you than that. So you decide how you want to make this look. If you want to flop on the ground, then I will put you in a rec league and instead of a competitive league. So you decide. He said no. And my two sons became very well known for they would never go down unless it was a real thing and unless somebody completely took them out. So that there's a cost to stuff like that. Parents don't talk to you. They don't want to talk to you. They think you're being unfair and you're not doing it like they do. It's really uncomfortable for society for people to rise. That's why the wealthy are very alone. The successful are very alone because they're doing something the norm is not doing. When you raise resilient kids, it is outside the norm and the expected. I had my oldest daughter, who's 42 now. I remember when she was about 11 years old, she came home and she said, Mom, am I supposed to feel bad about myself? And I said, well, what does that mean? What happened? And she shared the story about how all her girls were putting themselves down. And she said, I don't feel that way about myself. Then she walked away and they were mad. Girls at 11 years old. This is the cost. And are we as parents, are we stoic, brave, considered? Do we love our kids enough to stand next to them and say, it's okay, you can stand alone because you know who you are. You can be by yourself because it doesn't matter. Achieve what you want to achieve. Go as high as you want. Whatever you want to do, doesn't matter. But you have the power to do that. No one has the power to take that away from you. And if you let them live that way and you build so that they can, and you create an environment that allows for that allows them to speak up and sound foolish, allows them to fight and be silly and goofy and wrong, allows them to make huge mistakes, and you stand there when they fall and you help them when they're ready to get up. When you are that kind of a parent, you will raise resilient kids, and that is a benefit to society. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh my gosh, absolutely beautiful. The time with you has been amazing, and I'm very grateful for all that you've shared with us. I'm so excited to share it with our community, and I think everybody will benefit from it immensely. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you, Karleen.
Thank you.